Hello guys and girls and welcome. Good afternoon. This is my channel, Ollie JHN, and today I'm going to be talking about exams. And just like on the screen, exams seem to fly everywhere and appear from nowhere, but they are a very important part of your life. And I do know that some of my subscribers are at the GCSE level and some of my subscribers are A levels during the second year of A2s. There might even be people at AS level. So I'm going to try and use my experience of GCSE and A level to give you 7 tips today. That's 7 tips that will hopefully help you in exams. If they be mocks, because I know there's Christmas mocks and January mocks for A level, or if that be the actual exams coming up in the summer. So take a listen to these 7 tips. You've probably heard some of them before, and if you've got any new tips, then please do comment below in the comments. I'd like to hear those tips as well. So give these 7 a listen. Here we go. Okay, so tip number 1, and I've put this first because it's probably the most structural tip. It really structures all the other tips. Try and reduce the pressure on yourself. Exams are a very high pressure period and they do last for quite a while. The build up to the exams, the exam period themselves. So you really do need to try and reduce that pressure. And there's several ways of doing this, but the main way of doing it is just to think and get the right mindset in your head that exams aren't the end of the world. Please don't think going into the exams is literally your life. They are going to help you and they are very important, but there's always retakes, there's always other exams you can rely on. And sometimes you'll find, I know this sounds a bit silly, like saying it's not the end of the world, but by reducing that pressure, it means that you're likely to do better. If you go into exam highly pressured, you're likely to muck up. Where if you're a bit more calmer, you've got more time to think, you're more focused. It does actually work. I'm not saying just relax, lay back and don't revise at all. But what I am saying is try to reduce that pressure on yourself. And the other tips, the other 6 tips, will reduce the pressure that you have on yourself. But just go into that mindset that you know, if you're going to know it, you're going to know it. Obviously you have to revise for it. But don't go into the exam thinking, oh, what happens if this comes up? What happens if this comes up? If you know it, then you're going to know it. Put it down and leave it at that. So that is tip number 1. Okay, tip number 2. It's all about finding the right or the correct revision technique. Now, there's so many revision techniques now, and with online, there's websites and all that stuff. You've got flashcards, if that's your style. I mean, people put it into a song, people just read over their books. But of course, the most important bit of picking the correct one is that it's personal to you. Now, a personal thing for me was flashcards and reading over my exercise books. However, that might not work for you. So find the right revision technique and make it work for you. But also, make sure you get the correct revision technique for the style of revision that is needed. For example, geography is quite fact and case study based, so flashcards might work. However, for something like English, we have to remember poems, you're actually going to need to sort of read the poems, memorise quotes, etc. So there's different revision techniques for different subjects, so make sure you get the right one for the right subject. Tip number 3, and this one I found probably the most helpful in both of my GCSEs and A levels, it's timetables. This is about timetabling your revision, and by doing this you're more likely to be revising, but also you can timetable where your exams are, so you know those days you're probably not going to do as much revision because you've got an exam. But you're also going to know where your exams are by putting them on the timetable, the revision timetable. You're going to know how far away they are. And they're not just going to suddenly jump up and come out of the middle of nowhere. The main thing about timetables is that they're realistic. Don't say you're going to do 4 hours a night, because the likelihood is you're probably not. And don't go overboard with it as well. You are going to need rest. You do need time for your brain to take that information in. You can't do 6 hours of revision straight. You're going to need gaps and breaks. What I tend to do is less revision, but over a longer period of time. So I used to do about 3 hours every night, but over a period of about 3 months leading up to the exam. What you could do is cram it all into the last month and do 6 hours a night, but it's not really going to work because your brain's not going to take it in unless you have some sort of supersonic special brain. Okay, tip number 4 is all about on the day, the exam. Make sure that you know that paper layout, what the paper involves. So do past papers so you get a good idea of exactly what you need to do in that paper. Some papers you only have to answer certain questions. So you might have 6 questions, only have to answer 2. There's other papers where you have to answer every question. Some papers include multiple choice, some include essays. So make sure you have a good idea of what is in that paper. So when you open that paper on the day, you're not suddenly going to stand there in shock. You're going to know exactly what you're doing. You're going to keep nice and calm at the start of the exam so you can start straight away and understand it. Tip number 5, and this one's quite important, is to be early to the exam. Not on time, early to the exam. Now by being early, you've got time to read over your notes. You can get those last minute thoughts into your head that can become very helpful. Things like facts are quite hard to remember over a long period of time. But if you put them in your head just before the exam, you're very likely to remember them. So you're going to have time to do that. But you're also going to have time for things like going to the toilet, finding your seat number, etc. You don't want to be appearing on time and then you forget, oh, what's my seat? And then you're going to have to find that. Then you're going to be late. So make sure you're early to the exam. Again, it's reducing that pressure, which I was talking about in tip number 1. And that allows you to be nice and calm at the start of the exam. Tip number 6 might seem simple, but it is very important. It's the equipment. Make sure you've got 2 pens, not just one. If your pen runs out, you're going to have to ask an examiner to go and get you a pen. That's wasted time, especially in the shorter exams like in GCSE. Secondly, make sure you've got things like calculators if you need it for that exam. And finally, water. By actually keeping hydrated during the exam, you're more focused, and that is a proven fact. So keep hydrated. Have a sip of water every now and again. But obviously you can't have the labels on them now. And another good thing that comes in handy, especially for A-level where the timing is exact for each section, is a watch. When I was doing my geography exam, I had sort of like, it might have been 12 minutes for the first section. So it's not just 10 minutes, it's 12 minutes. So a watch really does help you get the perfect timing for that. Finally is 7. Tip number 7 is your priorities. Prioritise sleep. That is the most important thing. I'm not saying sleep all the time in the exam period, but sleep is a highly important thing. It restructures and re-strengthens your brain, and it lets that brain take in stuff. So don't go cramming in everything in the last night, like staying up till 1 o'clock. What you need to do is get to sleep nice and early and prioritise that sleep. Make sure you use your timetables so that you've done enough revision up to the exam so you do have time to sleep on that night of the exam. It's all about prioritising the main things. By doing a timetable, you can easily prioritise what revision needs to be done as well. That was my 7 tips. Hopefully you found this video helpful if you're doing your GCSEs or A-levels. And one thing I'm going to ask, usually I ask you to like and subscribe and comment and all that stuff, but all I'm really going to ask for this video is if you could please share this to anyone you know that's taking exams, whether they be doing their GCSEs, whether they be doing mocks coming up soon, whether it be A-levels, AS levels. Please do share this video around so this video hopefully can help as many people as possible, and that would be really appreciated if you could share this around. So thank you so much for watching. I have been Ollie JHN, and I'll see you later. Thank you.